Hey there, and welcome to week 3 of Snap Tackle Pod with Dion Clisso. I am Mick Shaffer of KSHB, Dion of PrepsKC. You can see it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I believe, behind his head. Is that right?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, probably
Maybe
6,
7
when you count the helmet.
Yeah, the
helmet, shirt. I win the logo war every time. So now when I come on Sound Off, I can't logo. I mean, I only get the one logo because we do it in the studio now.
It's the palatial PrepsKC studios you're at out there in Blue Springs.
And just off to the distance, I've got my Law and Order SVU, a good NBC property on USA, another NBC property.
That. I'm in my man cave in Shawnee, so opposite sides of Kansas City.
Yes,
in this podcast. But we do so each and every week, talking high school football in and around Kansas City, both the Kansas and Missouri sides. Kansas joined us last week. Dion, let's begin there. And look, of the 9 classifications, yes, they have 9 in Kansas now because they have 6-man football. Okay. Is there any 6-man football in Missouri?
No 6-man football in Missouri.
Yet, right?
Only 1 class of 8-man, where they have 2 classes of 8-man in Kansas.
Yes.
So
really, really small towns. A lot of them in Kansas. 2 classes of 8-man, 1 class of 6-man. We have no 8-man nor 6-man teams in our kind of viewing area. But of the 9 classifications, 5 number 1 teams lost last week, including 4A. But I mean, St. James losing to the defending 6A champs. Yeah, but we'll allow that.
Well, and you saw Derby go down in 6A, and I texted.
Man, that's 2 straight losses for the powerhouse Derby.
Yes, it is. I texted Matt Gilmore from K-Preps, and I said, did Blue Valley Northwest break them? And he said, no, it's a down recruiting year for Derby. So,
oh no.
So I mean, I think that throws that Western side wide open. I mean, Manhattan is by no means some kind of powerhouse, unless they've been building something out there that I haven't really noticed. I mean, that they've run into Lawrence and Free State a few times in the last few years, and they've been handled pretty easily by teams that were good Free State and Lawrence teams, but not world beaters by any means. So we'll be curious to see how that west side of the bracket does now. And really, the Kansas side was not a lot of surprises. There weren't too many toss-up matchups. I mean, I think Blue Valley Northwest and St. James might have been. But you saw Blue Valley Northwest jump out in that game, and St. James answered them. We're down to their 3rd string quarterback at one point due to injury and cramping and all that stuff. And John Nielsen's little brother, I think his name's Scott, maybe, came out and played for a couple plays, a sophomore. So I think Blue Valley Northwest kind of wore St. James down, especially in the second half. They really kind of Grant Stubblefielded him to death, and he had 200 yards. There was a lot of, I mean, if you didn't have 200 yards rushing, or 3 or 4 touchdowns receiving, or 3 or 4 touchdowns throwing last week, you didn't make the top half of the page. I mean, 100 yards wasn't getting it done. There was a lot of great performances last week. Grant Stubblefield 271, 280, depending on who you talk to last week. And of course, the great highlight of him stiff arming 3 different guys, and great call by Kevin White on that from Spectrum Sports.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned the west side of 6A. And normally, teams like Free State and Lawrence would be licking their chops that, okay, Derby's vulnerable this year, but both those teams lost last week. You have Gardner, who I believe is still on the west side. They got a big win.
No, they came back to the east side this year.
They're on the east side. Okay.
Yeah, they're on the east side. So it's
because
only
Wichita
Lawrence
Northwest moved up to 6A.
Yep, Wichita Northwest moved up. So no, Lawrence, I'll be curious to see. They've got the Thursday night game with Olathe West this week. Their quarterback, Clint Bowen's son, got hurt like 3 days before. So their quarterback had 3 days to prep for Olathe South. And that they only lost by 4, 36-32. I think is a pretty good Olathe South team. So I'm curious to see with them. And then, Free State lost to Olathe West. It's all the teams that are supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Took care of their games. I mean, I think the one, you talk about Gardner and Shawnee Mission East, that game turned into a shootout, but Gardner ran out on them really quick and scored a ton of points. So I think Gardner's a team to keep an eye on. And then, you talk about some other teams that won games and got wins in week 1. Shawnee Mission North beat Shawnee Mission South, and that was 28-0. It ended up 28-7. Yeah. So that's an impression. We're going to find out this week with Olathe South playing Shawnee Mission North. We'll talk more about that when we do big 3 games, but some interesting. But other than that, everybody pretty much, I mean, Baser and Tongi was close, but I figured that'd be close. That's kind of a toss-up game. DeSoto and Lansing was close. That's kind of a toss-up game. The toss-up games that were out there, but then everybody else that was kind of a expected winner, they won, and they won easily.
Yeah, except for, and I don't know how expected they were. If I had to put out an EKL preseason poll this year, I would have put Blue Valley West.
Yeah, that's the one that gets me.
There was a top 10, top 5 team, depending on which poll you look at around the city, return a lot back from a semifinal team a year ago. And St. Thomas Aquinas took them behind the woodshed.
Yeah, and then, they failed the test that is Aquinas. Don't let them get a 2 touchdown lead, because then it just steamrolls on you.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And I think any reports of Aquinas's death were greatly exaggerated. And Coach Strouling and the staff do a fantastic job. Yes, they've lost a quarterback and an outstanding defensive lineman to transfers to the same school. But it's still good talent there. They're going to be pretty good. And, I'm curious to see how Blue Valley West bounces back this week. But no, it's definitely, that was the game that kind of, not so much that Aquinas won, that it was 31-7.
Yeah, just the way they did it.
Just the way they did it. But like I said, it was 14-0 right out of the box. And then Aquinas just gets rolling at that point. And then you get a big dose of Sean Carroll when you're down a couple touchdowns, and he's a load, and definitely is a game killer in terms of killing the clock and all those kind of things. So
yeah. All right, let's hit the Missouri side. Let's start with the Ray Peck Park Hill game. I tell you what, it's going to be Ray Peck football might be must-see TV this year, right?
Yes.
Because they had a great shootout with Rockhurst the week before, and this one was epic. It looks like the Panthers are going to score a lot of points this year, but maybe give up a lot of points as well. It makes for fun viewing, and that thing was a classic.
In fact, as we talked before, when I went on air, that game got done after 10 o'clock. It was a late game, and I went on air about 10:15. And you kind of, to pull the curtain back a little bit, when I'm waiting to go on air, I turn the TV off. So not, in that time warp thing, I'm ready to go. I just kind of sit here in front of my computer, focused, ready to go, not trying to do other things, because I don't want to be, when they come to me, I don't want to be doing other things. I thought Ray Peck had lost that game. Kind of said something on there. I didn't say, it's Ray Peck lost that game. Got done, turned everything back on, and I was like, holy crap, they won it 57-50. Your Park Hill, you hung half 100 and you lost by 7. Their defense has definitely got some work to do, but Ray Peck's offense is as good as anybody. And that last touchdown they scored, I'm not sure what I guess they didn't want Jaden Doss to catch it, because the guy who caught the touchdown was in the end zone 30 yards down the field.
I think they had
no one closer than the line of scrimmage. Everyone was on the other side of the field. It was a crazy thing.
Yeah, Jaden Doss going to be our athlete of the week this week on KSHB 41. Well deserved. A lot of offensive firepower down there in Ray Peck land. All right, moving up north. How big of a win was that? How big of a statement win was that for Kearney to just kind of put their foot on Fort Osage?
Well, they got the onside kick to start the game, got it, and just never looked back. And I think Fort Osage was kind of back on their heels. Fort Osage made a lot of mistakes the first week against Grand Valley and still put up 30 points and won. They kind of imposed their will. They were not able to overcome mistakes and never got the momentum going in that game. And Kearney, like you said, hats off to them. That's a big win for them, coming off a 7-point win at Platte County. And then they get Smithville this week, their first home game of the season. I think that's an interesting game. Smithville beat Raytown by 16 points, beat Platte County by 3. This is not the team that was hanging 50 on everybody last year, not giving up any scores. So I'm saying that Kearney right now, to me, is the team that's playing better. And I haven't made my picks yet, but I'm leaning that way with Kearney. I think if they get that win, they're rolling right along.
No, they both have played, Platte County so far, and obviously Kearney looked better than Smithville early in the season. We'll see. Smithville, it's what you see a lot of times with those teams that just rolled through and won a title and graduated a lot. Sometimes you got to tell those younger guys below them that you're not supposed to win every game, because a lot of times they'll just keep coming. They expect to win, and that's a big thing in high school football.
Well, look at Odessa. They won the title in 19. They probably, if they wouldn't have gotten COVID out of the playoffs, probably could have been the champion. I would have bet money on it in 20. And then last year with a team that by the time they lost their first game, which was week 7, I think 6 or 7, and the winning streak hit the regular season winning streak dated back to 2017, I think 2017 or 2018, because they didn't lose in 2018. they were, they were scraping it together and they were still winning games.
Yeah.
There's something in a DNA of a team that wins a lot of games that says, we'll just find a way, even if our talent isn't.
It can echo throughout,
Yes.
weeks of the next season and sometimes even years. No, absolutely. Hey, let's talk about center. I was able to see them over the summer and they looked really, really good. Center's always good. Coach DeLong always has a great team, but I mean, these guys are really athletic and they put it on Lincoln Prep last week.
Yeah. And they've got some size too. Their top 22, 25, 30 are as good as anybody in 4A. The problem is there's not many after that 30. the numbers are small.
I mean, 4A, I mean, that's
4A, they might be able to do that. But if they have any injuries, that's going to, be their thing. They've got to keep everybody healthy. And the problem is they don't have a ton of guys. So even if they're up 42-7 on somebody, some of their guys got to go out and play the full boat. There's no, rolling in a fresh 22 to sit out there and play the fourth quarter. So no, they are as impressive as anybody. Ja'Cory Love, 200 yards. He actually tweeted out something I thought was interesting. He had 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he said his favorite play was, I don't know. It's grainy. It's like a video of a video kind of thing. Somebody fumbled. It was either him or somebody else fumbled. And the Lincoln Prep guy is tearing down the field with it. Ja'Cory catches him from behind, forces a fumble at like the 35 on the other side and recovers it back. So, I mean, he's a pretty special. And then, Joseph Vick, their quarterback's as good as anybody in the Metro. I mean, they've got 2 skill guys that could play anywhere right now. Rockhurst, Liberty North, Lee Summit North, they would step in and be those guys pretty much at any place they go.
Yeah. Liberty North, impressive over Liberty. The Eagles have looked apart this season. And then Lee Summit North bounces back with maybe not as convincing of a win over Park Hill South team, but that's a really good Park Hill South team, really good program.
Held with 15 yards rushing. I mean, that's
held all of them to almost nothing on the ground.
Yes.
And I mean, it's Bartosh there, right?
Yeah. So I mean, defensively, Lee Summit North looked really good. Their offense is a little bit better this week, and they ran the ball a ton. They had over 200 yards rushing, and I think that's going to be a lot of their signature this year. So no, Lee Summit North look good. I mean, like I said, the offense is going to be it's not going to be Ray Peck or Park Hill's offense anytime soon, but it's that once they get it going and they can intimidate and impose their will at the line of scrimmage, which with Caden Green and others, they've got plenty of size up there. Their rush attack is going to be really good. And I think Elijah Leonard, their quarterback who played a lot last week, the 2, Max Ford's the other, that they've got good guys who can, they're starting to find their spots.
And then Rockhurst bounces back with a win in week 2.
Yeah, it played really well against the Blue Spring South team coming off their first win in almost 2 years. And, Rockhurst has been in position to win both their games. They were leading, in the fourth quarter at Ray Peck and lost by a touchdown. And, this week they go to Liberty North. I think that's going to be, they're both in the same district. That probably is for the number 1 seed. Because I think they're probably going to sit next to each other pretty much all season long. So, like I said, this Rockhurst team is a lot of juniors. I mean, they've got some good seniors they really like and are really good leaders. This is the team is loaded with juniors and sophomores. So they should be better at the end of the season than they are right now, but they're really looking good right now for as young a team as they are.
Yeah. Check out this run for Rockhurst in the next several weeks at Liberty North, Bentonville, Arkansas at home, that 5-game series they've signed with Bentonville or whatever, at Bishop Miege, Aquinas at home. So we'll find out a lot about the Hawklets here in the next 4 weeks. All right, let's get to your big 3 here, Dion. Go back to the Kansas side in the EKL, where it's almost like there's a big 3 in the league every week. You got Blue Valley Southwest at Miege. Think the Timberwolves or something this year? The Timberwolves can knock off a team like Miege?
Well, they were leading Blue Valley most of that game. It was tied at halftime, and they scored. They were up 21-14 going to the fourth quarter. I think for Blue Valley Southwest, this is a situation where their talent is at a point where, they can play with the Blue Valley and play with the Miege. They've got to start finishing. And so they haven't played Miege in a while. They took Miege off their schedule for several years.
They did, and
Aquinas. And so they haven't played Miege in a long time. So this will be, why they were allowed to do that and the other Blue Valley schools weren't, I don't know. That's their district's politics and they can play it however they want. But they took Miege off and really they shouldn't take them. I mean, they caught them at the end of the run and the last 2 years would have been the time to play them.
Yeah.
And now Miege seems to be back on the upswing. But
now Miege is back kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Mac Armstrong,
like
300 yards passing last week and a big one over Blue Valley North. And no, it's I think Blue Valley Southwest is pretty good. We'll see. I don't know if Dunn played quarterback. He didn't play last week. We'll see if he plays this week. So that's kind of the situation there. They've got some injury problems, but this is a game they should be able to compete in. And I think in 5A, it's probably be them in Mill Valley down the line as it gets there. I think they'll be pretty battle tested by the end of it. With the Aquinas moving out, somebody's got to move into that spot. So I think that's where it's probably going to be.
Speaking of Mill Valley, over in the Sunflower League, at least from where I sit, it looks like there's Mill Valley, there's Olathe West, there's Shawnee Mission Northwest, and Olathe North. Those I think are the kind of four biggest contenders. Maybe throwing Olathe South in there in the Sunflower League this year, and we've got Northwest and North right away.
Yeah, no, it's Shawnee Mission Northwest. Maliko Atis, 200 yards, a couple touchdowns. I mean, he's a special guy. He's a good fun player.
And the defense throws shutout too against Shawnee Mission West.
Yeah, and then TJ Porter over at Olathe North. Couple hundred yards. Like I said, you didn't have 200 yards, but they threw the ball a little bit more at Olathe North last week. I think they're 15, 16 times, which for Olathe North is a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, and defensively, both these schools are pretty good. So, these are teams that have a chance of seeing each other in, late October, early November. It's a fun one. Both these teams are so well coached. Bo Black does a fantastic job. He's really built that into a program to where they've graduated a lot of really good players, and they just keep it rolling. And same with Olathe North. I mean, it just seems like, you got a guy starting at K-State as a freshman, but they're right back where they are. I mean, so that's a fun game. And like I said, that's another one. I haven't figured out how I'm going to go on that one yet.
Mm-hmm. And then last on the Kansas side, Olathe South at Shawnee Mission North. North got a big win over a rival and kind of a convincing win over Shawnee Mission South last week. And then Olathe South goes on the road. I think that was the Thursday game.
Game. Yeah.
And goes and makes a statement and beats Lawrence. You talked about Bowen, the quarterback, being out for that game. But I'm telling you, Olathe South's got Allen, the newly K-State commit.
Yeah.
And then they bring back the quarterback, a sophomore that was forced into action about halfway through the year last year. But he's got a lot of starts under his belt. This team is going to beat some people.
Yeah, Ron Litchfield takes over for Craig Lewis, who retired after last year, I saw him on the roster at Olathe West as an assistant coach. So I think
Craig is over at Olathe West. Yes.
Some of those guys never go away. I mean, Gene Weir's over at Mill Valley helping out. Yes, so I mean, exactly. Those guys don't go away all the time. But no, it's really Ron Litchfield, a guy you're familiar with. It was at Park Hill South, did a really good job there. He's been in Iowa for like the last almost decade, I think. Came back to Olathe South. That program was in a pretty good spot when Craig Lewis left. He kind of weathered some storms there. The pandemic was not kind to Olathe South. A lot of kids who kind of scattered out of the school into other areas like Lewisburg and places that were playing a full schedule. And so they've kind of recovered from that this year. And I think they're a really solid team. I put them with Gardner in that kind of next level in the Sunflower League. And then Shawnee Mission North. I mean, they've been in this situation last few years where one win is kind of what they've gotten. Well, they've already got the one win and they look good doing it. I mean, that's against the Shawnee Mission South team that I think a lot of us thought would be better this year. And Shawnee Mission North never let them be a part of that game. So I think it's a fun one to see both these teams on the upswing in week 2 have a chance to kind of be highlighted a little bit.
All right, over to the Missouri side, you have Grain Valley at Oak Park. Is something brewing with the Northmen? They got something brewing up there?
Well, they're 2-0 and they've beaten, teams they should have in Ruskin and Winnetonka and did it quite easily. This is a group of guys that there are a lot of juniors on this team and some seniors have been starting since they were sophomores. So, Coach Clemens likes this team. The question is they've got their 2 wins now. Grain Valley hammered Grandview last week, a good Grandview team, 43-6 at halftime. And so Grain Valley, after that first week where they did not play very well against Fort Osage, bounced back. This is a test for these 2 Class 5 teams that this is a kind of, second week of the playoff type game, district semifinal type game, teams that are good enough to win their first round and go from there. So this is they're really going to, each of them are going to find out a lot about themselves going forward, even though they're in different conferences.
You have Staley at Lee Summit North. I think the Falcons can swoop in and upset the Broncos here.
Well, they played real well against Blue Springs in week 1. got down big to Lee Summit last week and then got almost all the way back to tie and then ended up losing by a couple scores. That's a young team. And that's kind of one of those, how are they going to face adversity against the Lee Summit North team that's pretty good. Lee Summit North, like I said, their offense is a little bit, still under construction. So they're a team that defensively may not let you score, but they're not going to go out right now. They're not scoring 50 points a game. So you're not out of reach. And it looks like Staley can put some points on the board. So for Staley, newly minted Class 6, get these kind of games. When you get these games that are in they're in the league with Lee Summit North. This is a test to find out where they are as a Class 6 program now.
Yeah. And lastly, on the Missouri side, North Kansas City at Platte County. You've got 0-2 against 2-0, but wait, it's Platte County that's 0-2.
Yes.
And it's North Kansas City that's 2-0.
And these two teams play great games.
Do they?
In the past, it's been shootouts. There's been some shootout games. I don't know if either one of them can get to 21 points on Friday night because both their offenses are struggling. Platte County is really kind of we're going to run the ball and, play a lot of defense. And if you want to talk about D1 defensive line talent, this is your game. You've got a Tennessee commit from Platte County. And then you've got an Alabama commit and a Oklahoma commit at North Kansas City. So
unreal.
The defenses will rule this game. I think if you kick a couple field goals, it might be like watching the Iowa game on Saturday if you were forced to do that, or forced yourself like my wife did and yelled at the TV the entire time, where the defense outscored the offense and they won 7-3. I think it's there could be a safety or two in this game. So it's like I said, they always play great games. They played in the playoffs last couple of years, so this is definitely a game that. And the one thing that makes it great too is both coaching staffs really like each other and respect each other and enjoy the game. They enjoy that challenge when they get together.
Listen, I've watched enough Iowa football. I know, bet the under. Okay, it's now legal in Kansas.
The funniest part about that,
advice with the Hawkeyes.
I don't want to go too deep into the Iowa, wormhole, but as I'm walking upstairs, and the game is just getting on.
A ton of playing time.
Yes, he's getting a ton of playing time, and he's looking good. I'm walking upstairs, and they say something effective. Well, with the new look offense, well, not really new look, but some new wrinkles they've thrown in, they feel like they're going to score more points. And I was like, oh my God, they're just cursed. I was like, in my head, I was like, they're not going to score any points in this game.
Same quarterback as last year. So
it's the same quarterback, same offensive coordinator. So, I mean, I'm not going to, advocate for anyone's firing, especially a father and a son combo up there in Iowa. But I can tell you right now that if my wife had a vote, there would be a new offensive coordinator at the University of Iowa.
All right, before we get out of here, Dion, let's hit on a couple other games if we can. Blue Valley Northwest thought it was taking on like the 4A top team in 4A last week. Maybe they're doing it this week as they're hosting St. Thomas Aquinas again.
Well, and this is the team that beat them last year. So I think there's a lot of motivation.
One loss. That's right.
It's their one loss. And what did they do? They got down 14 points and couldn't come back against. I think they got it tied or got it within a one score and never got it back. No, I think it's a good game for both these teams, and they'll find out a lot about themselves right here. Hats off to Blue Valley Northwest. They only had 3 or 4 starters on each side of the ball coming back, and they didn't look like a team last night or Friday night that was going to struggle to do what they wanted to do. The difference in Blue Valley Northwest as a program, and we've talked about this before, is in the time that Clint Ryder has been there, their change in the weight room and how they do things has made them into a team that can graduate really good players and still come back, because they replaced a bunch of big guys on the line with a bunch of big athletic guys on the line. So, I mean, they have people who can step in and do those things. And so that's really the part with that. And then Aquinas, this is another test for them. I mean, they looked really good last week. How do they back that up this week? So like I said, the EKL's got great games every week.
Absolutely. And then, hey, look, Pembroke Hill, it's like the Chiefs high school team here, right? That's where Andy Reid showed up last week at home. Pembroke Hill on the road this week to Lincoln Prep. I mean, how are you seeing that one shake out in kind of small?
Pembroke's off to a rough start. They lost to Christ Prep, a non-affiliated school. Christ Prep is a good program. I don't want to make it sound like because they're not a Keisha school, because they play in this like homeschool national championship tournament every year. They lost to Christ Prep. They lost to St. Pius. This is a good test for them. And Pembroke Hill Lincoln Prep has been a a game that's gone a long time. They like to play that game. These two schools have played each other. I think it's a good game for Pembroke Hill to kind of see yet another different type of team that they've seen so far. And for Lincoln Prep, they've got a chance to bounce back after what was a really, I'm sure, disheartening loss, because they were never really a part of that game. They got down early, and Lincoln Prep Center just ran all over Lincoln Prep. So both these teams are looking to bounce back in a big way this week.
All right, Friday night's the place to be. KSHB 41 and PrepsKC.com. Any other games? I've looked at the schedule. I kind of know where we're going. Any other games that you'll be sending stringers out to?
We got Blue Spring South. We got somebody there. Then they're big three, but no, we've got we had a great week last week. Looking forward to this week again, and I know that we'll have Rockers and Liberty North coverage, of course. And so that's one of those games you got to make sure. And somebody's like, how's that not a big three game? Well, Liberty North and Rockers can't be in big three games every week. It's not fair to everyone else, and there's plenty of games that that deserve the highlight and the spotlight. As we talk about, like a Shawnee Mission North, they have not been in the big three very much in the last 10 years, and so there's a good chance for them to go and spread the love, and who knows, get another win and go 2-0 on the season. Yeah,
and we also have St. James at Blue Valley will have a KSHB 41 as well, top 25 match. Two quality teams just playing that EKL.
Yeah, we'll have live stats from that game, and that's one of the great things. We got live. About half of our games right now have some form of live stats, or after the game is over, they find their Wi-Fi and it loads in after the game's over. So yeah, it's kind of fun to see that. And of course, our Twitter handle. We're a little more active with that on Friday nights to kind of point you in the right direction, let you know what's going on, let you know where we're at out there. So follow us at PrepsKC on Twitter. And
I'm telling you, it's a great thing to chew up the 45-minute half times we have in high school football. The first thing, once I'm at high school games every Friday night, once that second quarter clock hits 0, all the dads, all the moms too, pull their phones out, go to PrepsKC.com and just take a look at scores.
You got plenty of time.
I mean, they're at halftime as well. It's not like this is it's an hour delay or anything like that. You guys are so good at getting the scores updated, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, do you see what this team is doing? I can't believe they're losing to this team. It's a fun way for like 10 minutes. We're just scrolling through scores just to catch up and see what's going on in the rest of the high school world. And I know that's going on in bleachers and stands throughout the city. Yeah, the first 25-30 minutes are a little crazy as you try and just get a handle on, is everybody tweeting or, live statting, or how because there's some usual offenders that it's tough for us to get scores from. Yeah. And so we have to kind of hunt them down. And even though we try and work with them as best we can, but some of those, are getting better. Hats off to Sumner. They were tweeting out pictures of the scoreboard at least 2-3 times during the game. Great. So good for them. That's all you need. Just a little scoreboard shot. Hey, if you do it 4 times, a night, that's fine with me. I mean, that's quote a line for, that's the bare minimum. And, but we encourage amount of flair we need. The minimum amount of flair, but we encourage you to do more. Yes, exactly. You can do more. You can always do more. Schools. We appreciate that. But no, that's awesome. It's a great thing Friday night, and it makes those nights even more enjoyable. Yeah, just go. Anything else, Dion, before we get out of here? That's it right there. And you get on the app or PrepsKC.com on your phone, your browser. I mean, it's all web friendly. I mean, it's all phone friendly. So that's the beauty of that. And even if you don't have the app, you can go right to PrepsKC.com on your phone. Well, I just go to the internet. I go to my Safari. It's the way to do it. All right, Dion, thanks so much for the time. Thanks to you for watching. We'll see you next week right here on Snap Tackle Pod.